This ticketing process, it's a monopoly. And basically, we have no other option. There are fraudulent practices. There are what are called antitrust violations. So we say, look, Federal Trade Commission, they're doing things to monopolize the market. This is illegal stuff. Dozens of Taylor Swift fans sue Ticketmaster in the wake of its ticket sale fiasco. Now, I'll be sure to link down the video where we covered this initially, right? Where we had something like 14 million fans trying to purchase tickets to go and see Taylor Swift. And then what happened is that, of course, the website couldn't handle it. There were crashes. And this was in the pre-sale phase. Now there's been some additional information that came out. Apparently, fans were being enticed to buy merchandise, right? And then they would be put into this pre-sale queue. And so they did these things, right, pursuant to Ticketmaster agreements. And then they weren't able to get the tickets. And then the way the whole thing where it works on Ticketmaster is that bots will go in, people will purchase the tickets, and then put them back up for sale. And we were showing you some of these tickets were being resold for $10,000, $20,000, even $50,000. So here's the update. More than 24 Taylor Swift fans as of now, but I think like 400 people have expressed interest in joining this lawsuit since it was filed this week.
And they want and they expect way more to join up as publicity of this spreads. I'm sure more people are going to want to jump on this.
Yes, and so they're suing Ticketmaster, and the parent company is Live Nation Entertainment, but they're suing Ticketmaster, okay? And they're having to do with this whole fiasco of what happened. So the lawyers for the 26 plaintiffs who live in a variety of states, I think there's like 13 different states across the United States, they finally filed this complaint in LA County Superior Court on Friday. So they're alleging this ticketing process, it's a monopoly. And basically, we have no other option. There are fraudulent practices. There are what are called antitrust violations. So we say, look, Federal Trade Commission, they're doing things to monopolize the market. This is illegal stuff.
And adding crazy fees to everything anyway. We went over that in depth on the last video of this.
And adding a whole lot of fees, which we've all kind of just become accustomed to. I mean, it's kind of like this whole, you go to, a theme park and then you get a water and the water's like $20 and you're like, oh, it's terrible. But you also just accept it because that's how it is, right? So there's a little bit of that, but obviously they're saying the pendulum has swung way too far the other way. And now we have antitrust issues. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Now, do we anticipate that hundreds of people are going to continue joining this complaint? I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Swifties are going to unite and they are going to go like Hulkamania all over Ticketmaster. But they're seeking $2,500 against Ticketmaster for every violation of business and professional codes.
Yes, but there are other damages. So let me just see if I can pull this up for you guys. So, one of the first causes of action here, it's breach of contract. So what they're alleging in this section is just to say, this was the pre-sale stuff. Okay, so we entered into a contract setting forth conditions, the material terms, agreements. Defendants would give us the right to pre-purchase the Lovers Fest tickets in exchange for buying merchandise, right? And they obviously were not able to do that. That was part of the issue because the site was crashing. It was freezing.
I think we need to go back to the days of waiting in line for tickets. Like no more of this online stuff. I used to wait in line for my concert tickets for hours. You'd have to get up at like Saturday at like 6:30 a.m. start waiting in line at Dillard's or at whatever Tower Records, wherever it was that had a Ticketmaster, or if they were a Dillard's outlet, and you would wait in line with 200 other people. Some people that would camp out from the night before to get their tickets, and and you still had to worry about scalpers buying the maximum 4 to 6 tickets at a time. But at least
how would this work logistically for Taylor's 14 million fans?
I don't know. They got to figure it out. Like it's just because with it's just hard with bots. It's hard with bots. It's hard with AI. It's hard with all of this stuff, man. Like technology is just making it really hard to do anything.
So the next claim here, it's for intentional misrepresentation. So Ticketmaster made statements to plaintiffs about the pre-sale of her tickets, particularly regarding how to get codes, who would get codes, how to get tickets, who'd be able to be part of the presale. Ticketmaster also failed to disclose that they had sent more codes than they could accommodate with tickets. Ticketmaster had no intention of following these statements to plaintiffs. So they're saying since it's intentional misrepresentation, that's fraud. It was fraud because you said this thing, you knew it wasn't true, and you made us rely on that, leading us to then take these actions, which has caused us damages. Okay. So that's number two. So the first one was breach of contract. Number two, intentional misrepresentation, which is fraud. Number three, fraud again. Okay. And in fact, let's just kind of go through because we know, they're saying Ticketmaster, you lied. All right. And then we have fourth cause of action, which is fraudulent inducement. So this is a slight variation. So with fraudulent inducement, they're saying essentially that based on statements, you induced us to then go and do something. So by way of the wrongful acts and omissions, as alleged herein, Ticketmaster will be unjustly enriched if they are able to profit from plaintiff's action free from any claims by plaintiffs. Okay. Plaintiffs are informed and believe plaintiffs' claims against Ticketmasters are actionable and recoverable. We sustain damages because of Ticketmaster. We want our attorney's fees on top of everything else.
When all this stuff was going on, I had this thought in the back of my head that where just like, worst case scenario, because there was such an outpouring of just upset fans. So what do they do? Like, just because they can't really do anything because ticket, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? Like, are they going to just go, okay, guys, so if you got a ticket, so sorry, you're going to have to go through the process of getting a refund. We're going to have a resale next Saturday. We got it set up. So if you got tickets, sorry, those don't count. We're going to take all those away from you. And we're just going to start the whole process over if we can get it right. Like, there's really nothing you can do. And Taylor can't just be like, yo, you know what? Because they messed this thing up so much, I'm canceling the tour. I'm going to find somebody else to do it with, because then she'd be upsetting all the millions of people that did get tickets. So it's like, no matter what happens, like the fans and Taylor and Ticketmaster all kind of like in this weird stuck position where it's just like, there's not going to be any really good answer. And by the fans suing Ticketmaster, like if this thing gets big enough, it could really set precedent for how Ticketmaster moves forward.
I totally agree. And if it doesn't, it won't. Now, Winston had a question. Any antitrust claims? Great question, Winston. So number 5, cause of action, antitrust violation. So there is an actual controversy between plaintiffs on the one hand and defendant on the other as to their rights, obligations, interests concerning the contract and or property. Due to this actual controversy, plaintiffs are entitled to a determination of their rights and obligations concerning the contract and property pursuant to an equitable order of declaratory relief. Keep going. Ticketmaster coordinated efforts to foreclose competition in the secondary ticket service market, which constituted a violation of Cartwright Act. So, guys, what we're talking about with antitrust or security issues is basically to say that this company came into the market. They are monopolizing the market. And because of that, consumers have no other choice. So when we have these practices that go and cause a lot of exploitation, now we're getting into the monopoly issue. So Ticketmaster has been able to accomplish this violation because of the individual and collective market power that Golden State and Ticketmaster wield over the sale of Taylor Swift's tickets through primary ticket platforms. Ticketmaster coordinated illegal acts and efforts to force ticket holders to use Ticketmaster as their exclusive provider of secondary ticket exchange services, monitor, enforce, and or coerce compliance with their respective policies, exclusivity market, and to promote Ticketmaster. So, I mean, they're saying the whole, are you kidding me here? Which I don't think anyone's disputing. So then it gets into, of course, under the antitrust claims, we have unlawful tying. And so, as we kind of get more cerebral into how this works, I mean, the simple of it, last time I used kind of the example of Walmart, right? So if Walmart comes in so that eventually smaller types of shops that sell the same types of goods just have no ability to do that anymore, then we kind of have now the government step in, right? These administrative bodies like the Federal Trade Commission who will sue. And in fact, we're not covering it on tonight's show, but wasn't it Microsoft, right? So Microsoft is attempting to acquire through a $69 billion sale another company, which would make it, I think, the third largest game creator in the marketplace. So in response, Federal Trade Commission goes and actually sues it and says, no, we're going to stop the sale. The sale might still go through, but this is what we do to try to actually control these businesses when they start getting out of control. The unlawful tying, claim is kind of interesting, right? Because what it's basically saying is that when you have a condition in order to go and purchase the thing, so in this case, it was you have to go and purchase merchandise, and then you have the opportunity to go into the pre-sale group, right? Then it becomes unlawful tying. So that's the basis of this claim. Now, Winston had a question. Any potential litigation against the resellers, aka like when they went after the Napster users? That's a really good question. Now, as far as this complaint, the answer is no. This complaint is solely against Live Nation. So as now, they're not naming individual people because quite frankly, that would be a huge pain in the ass. And if you are legally able to do something and pursuant to the actual company's own policies, you're allowed to post it up and put whatever number you want. So what did they do wrong, essentially, right? But when we are able to kind of utilize these claims, the government, it's usually because we're dealing with bigger things, right? Scale. But to, the point, in the United States of America, you can sue whoever you want. So if you do find any resellers and you go, I think you are a terrible person and you want to sue them, you can. You just might not win.
And I really do. I think it's going to get huge. I think it's going to, you saw all those people turned away. You see a lot of people opportunistic, and the Swifties are hardcore. So I think that you are going to see a lot of action happening.
And Taylor
But hopefully
Swift
it'll
is
bring
hard.
change.
And Taylor Swift is hardcore for her fans. And so I wonder if this does get big enough, maybe she jumps into the mix and she becomes kind of an advocate for change.